invite them to the...
It is free. There is a part where they give you more options if you pay, but this initial one is free, okay? And I have tried Padlet and difference, but I just find this one really immediate in how you... It's complicated. Yeah.
It was just the first part when you have to create Padlet is complicated.
It's already.
You have to decide a lot of things that, okay.
Yeah.
In the end, you say, okay, too hard for me.
Never mind the 25 students that will bombard me, right? That's right. So I wanted to show you that as an online tool to use. Okay.
Can you invite them per email?
Yeah, you need an email, and that's how they will receive the invitation. They'll click yes to join you, and then they're in the group. Okay. So you could actually, I mean, it's easy. If you're giving a group work, you could say, okay, one of you signs on to Lino, well, you all sign on to Lino, and this is where you can work and exchange material and see how to put it together. Or if you want, you can be in control of that. And you have different. I've just started to use this, so this is the one where my colleague and I have tested. I send you the email, you're now my friend on this, and we're testing it. So you would have all kinds of boards, they call them canvases, okay, where you prepare the work. So if you're working with class 3A and class 4B and
Can you show us some examples that you're working on?
Let's see what we prepared in our course that we are doing. Okay, so...
Congiuntivo.
Okay, so this is just a tense, and she's a French teacher.
Oh, okay.
That's why we have this. We were just... So what did we put on here? We put and we were just testing how it works to get the links on there. Okay, what works? But we found it was really easy to...
Mr. Bean.
Yeah, it was easy, and it was Mr. Bean, present continuous from YouTube. Okay, so, and it goes with the outer. I know you can't see that right now because it's really dark. I can make it bigger. So the video works, it's a direct link. And here it's what have we got? A PDF file that's opening up. And then, of course, I can put my sticky note and write on it. Okay. Change the color. So my PDF file here. Okay, this is just a normal. I tried putting a grammar, and this is just a PDF file, so they would have to print it. I said, okay, I can give them the PDF. They can print it and do it and give it to me. Or, in alternative, I gave... Oh, no.
Close?
Yeah, well, that's me.
Technical problems. Close, right?
That is me. Okay. It's not there, I closed it. I'm sorry. But the other one was just a link that I put on an online exercise where they would be able to practice and get immediate feedback of their work.
Sorry, I have a question. They can do the exercise and send it to you back.
That exercise was a PDF, so you wouldn't be able to do it on there.
Okay.
They would have to print it, do it, or they could scan it for sure.
Every person can use the board, so every person have the email that.
The ones I put on there have access to it.
Oh.
I'm the one that decides who goes on it. So yes, if I have...
You decide?
Yes, because I would be... You're like the administrator in WhatsApp.
Okay.
Okay,
right.
so you invite someone to be on your WhatsApp chat. They can't just participate. And it's the same here. Okay? But you could also just give it to the student and say, this is the site, use it in order to communicate. Because if you have 3 or 4 people and they need to see what material each one is preparing, then they actually see it. It's difficult to do at school if you're working online. How are you going to show your classmates a video that you found or images? you don't want to print them before you actually need them, right? And very often it's digital material. Okay, we're changing activity completely. And this is the first step. This is scaffolding, okay? So we're going to approach something in a very easy way. Easy, but it's not. And I find it's not, and let me be precise. Some classes respond really well. Some classes, if you take them away from the study, repeat, and you ask them to do something with think in between, they're lost. They're lost, they feel insecure, they don't have any confidence with their own, of themselves, with their thinking. You're going to need paper because I don't have a board in here. What I would normally do, and you can do this together, one person needs to write, and that. What you normally would do is take an ad, and you brainstorm. So I would say with this ad, I would tell my class, okay, tell me all the words that come to mind looking at this ad. And this is great for vocabulary because they don't know the words. The words come to them in Italian and I say, give them to me. And we write them on the board. And we begin to write all the words. So this is what I want from you now. Just on a piece of paper, like brainstorming. Give me the words. Even if you don't know them in English, we'll translate them to Italian. What you see and what words you have. So let's begin this exercise.
Okay, friendship. All right.
Huh?
Oh, now or
Right now. Begin. Look at what you see. Okay.
Write it down on the paper?
Write it down because that's part of the activity. Step 2 will require you to do something with these words. So take the picture in blocks. You've got the tree. So what words come to you with tree?
Green.
Green, okay, tree, green, nature. Write these down.
Wood,
Trunk, leaves, branches.
Pollution.
Pollution. Well, maybe you're thinking environment.
Yes.
Okay, put it down. This is the first thing I say. There are no right or wrong answers, and you have no idea how often I have to say this. There are just ideas. The right or wrong is not right or wrong. It's what works and what doesn't. So no right or wrong answers. Put down pollution.
Help, friendship, love.
Love.
Connection of the two hands together means something.
Write it down. Write down. And it can be words or phrases. Write it down. So she said connection. Okay. She said friendship. Okay. What else?
Future.
Future.
Possibilities.
Possibilities.
White.
White, as in Caucasian,
No, because they are both white hands.
in the sense that they're not black or
Right.
Well, Caucasian. Okay, white. Okay.
Help.
Help. Okay.
Young.
Young. Okay, they're not old hands. Correct. Young. Good. Very good. Female. Women hands. Okay. Female. When you're looking at this, everything has to do. Now here, you can't read the caption. It says, climate change is a reality. Today our world is hotter than it has been in 2,000 years. By the end of the century, if current trends continue, the global temperature is likely to climb higher than at any time in the past 2 million years. Okay, so this is what it has. It's just an explanation by Greenpeace. But also take a look at the caption. What do you see about the caption here?
Different characters.
Yeah, take a look at them. What do you see?
Some birds, I think. I don't see very well from here. Leaves.
No, they're not leaves.
No.
It's actually the letters are crumbling. They're falling apart. Okay? They're crumbling. So you could say crumbling, being destroyed, falling apart. These would be words that the class comes up with. So you need to put a lot of them. Put down all these words. Okay? It's not just about one word, it's about a lot of words.
Recycling.
Recycling, okay. I'm going to say fertility. Fertility? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say because the tree, natural
or human, from humans. So
human action.
Human action.
Let's put down human action. Growth, absolutely. How about,
Death.
death? Where do you get death?
Not because I imagine a tree die.
Okay, but focus on the image. Don't go beyond what you see, okay? That's the next
I'm
step.
referring to a future.
Okay, because of this. Okay, all right, that works. Yeah, death, right. Because you have the context. It's easy to forget about this when the dominant image is this.
Positive.
Positive, okay.
Protection.
Protection, absolutely.
Shelter.
Shelter, nurture, okay.
Challenge.
Connected to the fact that, the walls are crumbling, are falling apart.
Yeah.
You can imagine death.
Yeah.
You can imagine
So put it down. Because anyway, here it is said we're going to die, basically.
disaster.
Yeah. Disaster, put it down. Challenge. Did we say rebirth?
Rebirth.
Okay. Japan. I don't know if that's a bonsai. I'm not sure that.
But it seems to
It's
me
a maritime pine. It could be also, not necessarily a bonsai, right? Anything else? Can we say? We said connection. We said responsibility. Okay. Responsibility. Connection, collaboration. Did we say action? Because this is a call to action.
Yeah.
Okay. Work together.
Peace, we say peace.
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 Okay. So,
Green peace, yeah.
okay. I don't know if you see it. Okay, but what does this action remind you of? It's very interesting. One of my,
Marriage.
huh?
No, the picture of Michelangelo. Yeah. The creation of the world.
That's right.
God.
Okay, that's right. And it's funny because one of my students said they didn't pick up on that, but one of them said Nokia.
Nokia.
Yeah, do you remember the old Nokia? You would turn it on and it would go bling and the hands would meet. That was when you turned on the phone, the hands. And he said Nokia, and I said, Nokia? I go, that's right, because he didn't make the connection that Nokia is inspired by the... He missed a passage, right? So that would be, in our Christian terminology, would be the creation. Okay, life. All right. So imagine my board being full of all these words by my students.
So you write the words on the
Because I am modeling the activity. Then they will do it in groups. But the first thing they will do is this modeling. I'm showing them the activity and we're doing it together. So basically, they would have this board full of words, and then I would ask them, I do it with colored chalk. I take a color and I say, now give me words that are connected in some way. So I'm going to ask you to look at the words that are connected in some way and circle them, or use a square, but use the same kind of marking so that you identify the words that are connected. Look at your papers and try to find the words that would come together. on there.
This was for primary school.
No.
So,
Okay. And this would, you would not do this with primary school,
green.
but the
I have to
next
circle.
level
Yeah, you can circle.
that you do, because we're going to do it story.
So,
Next
which,
level are the kind of questions that you would ask for them to identify in natural research. So if you're reading with the kids, you want to ask them
evolution and recycling.
Okay, so that would be where you raise it. But we'll see it with the literature.
Okay. What do you think?
Fertility.
Fertility.
No.
Well, yeah, with nature. Nature is birth. And then I would say could be then protection.
Protection.
Action.
Positive and negative meanings.
Well, you
On
would
one side of the
yes,
positive,
take up different
negative.
Green
Red
and
colors, black and green.
That's right. So he also so these would be the two, because you'll see that's an add or a story.
So we write connection.
No.
Okay.
What is this friendship?
Friendship.
So we could then underline maybe friendship with peace, peace and collaboration,
Word. Challenge. Connection. Challenge. Friendship.
Not everything is going to enter a category, okay? But some are going to, and they're going to emerge into one category.
maybe life is connected to
Rebirth,
yes,
fertility, and a connection. Okay,
Challenge.
all right.
Could be like both. Challenge.
I write very bad. The reason I
Now-
always use computer because
What I've just asked my students to do is to identify the concrete, what is obvious, okay, in the ad. We are adults, so we probably already produced some sophisticated words that are already in the conceptual, the abstract, all right? What I'm asking the students to do now with this category is to identify the key concept. And with that work, I'm asking them to move from the concrete to the abstract. Okay? And that's not easy for them. No, especially your age group. And this begins at the elementary. Okay? This should begin at elementary. So what do you have? In this one here, some ads that you choose are really obvious. Some ads are really good to use. Some ads are so vague, you don't know what the message is. All right? But this one is a good ad because even without doing this work, you know already that this is a message of rebirth. Okay? Of saving. Of life, okay? And the secondary message that you said, rightly so, is one of destruction. Because if we had concentrated, like she said, on black, on crumbling, on destruction. So these would be two key concepts that emerge. In an ad, if you do advertising, they don't come up with this and say, if they want to sell a car, it's not about selling a car, because you could put a picture of the car on a white background and say, hey, I have a car, do you want to buy it? No, they put a car in a nice open road with a beautiful view, maybe with a rich guy, and what the message you're receiving is open air, endless road.
They're selling a lifestyle, not
They're
the car.
selling, or the concept of freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the secondary messages that we don't perceive, that are not obvious. As adults, we know they're playing with us. We know that there are these mechanisms. But this is used in every writing, in every form of art. a sculpture, a picture, there is the underlying, and that is the abstract.
That
Okay.
is critical thinking.
That we're getting to that. Yeah, it is. We're getting to that. So this would be the first step that I take with them, showing them that yes, they're trying to influence me. This is what we call, there's a specific name for ads that are used to educate or to promote a certain behavior. Like anti-smoking ads are pro-positive advertising, I think, and they're not there to sell. They're there to modify a behavior. Okay? Huh? Yeah, but yes, that's right. And I'm not sure. Okay, so this would be one. And the message is clear. What else? What key concepts did you come up with? That one primarily, and it's also obvious. So what I would do is I would take these categories and they would be circled in red chalk. And then we'll try, if there's another one, I would circle it in blue chalk. And this part here is called observation. Okay? You observe something. And then from this I would say, well, what is the key concept? And that's more difficult because they can, and this is also in high school, they will tell you, they'll describe what it is, but they can't come up with the word to describe the key concept. Okay? So, an example, the character in the story always does the same thing. She always reads the same book. She always gets up at the same time. She's stuck in a life where nothing changes. They'll tell you this. They'll give you this because they can identify it. What they have problem with is saying the concept is monotony. Okay? That the key concept is monotony. That's where the difficulty comes in. Okay? Because that's what those words mean in the story. So here, what's your key concept? Maybe it's even a word that we have used.
Collaboration, cooperation, responsibility.
Yeah, so yes, these would be the key concepts, okay? And you could actually, okay, so,
Protection of the environment.
okay, so,
Is in your
right. Now, if you go to literature, this is where it is, okay? And you need these to understand theme, to identify the key concepts in the story that are going to point to theme. And again, they read the words, but they can't produce the ideas. And the reason is because they lack experience. Because to do this, you have to learn to talk about it. To understand that there is no right or wrong, you could say, in my opinion, the key concept here, the key concept is protection. And in an academic environment, you can say whatever you want. Just like in the scientific environment, you just have to support your opinion. Okay? But the important thing is to have an opinion. And here is where I find they're terrified to have an opinion. I am constantly saying, just let go. Just let go. Have an opinion. Think about it. And have an opinion. And of course you would write, I think this because the ad has this, the ad has this, the ad has this, right? She could contest your opinion and say, I'm not sure about that. But she would have to do it by supporting hers. Okay?
But what would you show them in a literary context?
Oh, I'll show you. We've got it. We're going to do it now. Okay? So this would be the first step. And you could do this almost every year. And if if you have the time, you could actually find ads that have some kind of connection. She jumps every time. That there's some kind of question to connection to the theme that you're going to treat. I saw one activity done where they were going to study Heart of Darkness, where the theme is evil in man. Okay? And the ad, the preliminary structuring of it was getting the students to analyze an ad in the defense of animals, circus animals. Okay? It was really an interesting connection because there they had to, the words that came out is, you know, man and evil and hate and cruelty and all the key elements that you would find in the story that you're going to talk about. And so they are already confronting each other on these elements because these are the words that come from the ad. Right?
Yeah, I would also
So-
bullying also. Bullying.
If you're doing stories that, and again, you might choose to do short stories. I love doing short stories because they can read them, you can finish them, you can analyze them, and they can think about them. And it's done. There's no, well, if everybody has to read this to do it. So the first step is I would mirror this.
But just a question. But generally, you start from an ad that is not that has nothing to do with the story you want to.
I don't do it because
Speak
I don't
about-
do literature. I do short stories in class now, but the literature program is my colleagues.
Okay.
But I am doing with my 4th year this work with them, and we're doing short story literature
Yes.
actually because we want to get them away from reading the short story, writing the summary. We want the interaction. We want the thinking.
Okay.
Literature should be about thinking. It shouldn't be about just reading the words.
Do you guys
Okay.
have an example of a short story that you're using?
Oh, you're going to see it. I have it right here, 2 of them. And I'm going to introduce a new genre that you don't use in Italian. And that is so new that Italians don't write in this genre. But don't let me get ahead of myself. The next step here for me, and sometimes it takes 2, I'll give you some of the ads that I've, where are you?
This is interesting. I've never thought about showing them an ad to
Ads.
brainstorm.
Ads are wonderful also for the vocabulary because
Why?
for the high school teachers, you're working with higher level vocabulary here.
Yeah.
Okay, which is nice if middle school starts to introduce it because what I find in the textbooks from middle school to high school that the vocabulary extension is never enough. If you're doing, for example, the biennio, it rarely do they, it's always the same house. It's always the same sports. At what point are we going to start teaching toilet paper, shower head, tap? Okay, we have signs that say do not drink tap water, but these are never taught.
But they don't know.
No, because the
What it
books
is.
in the biennial are the vocabulary extension is not much more than what they do in the middle school.
Yeah.
And that we don't do, because if you don't take the time to do this, and do you have the time? No. If you're in a linguistico, I have the time to do it, but not you. So, yeah, my girls love this one. I'm just going to show it because this one is so interesting in the sense that this guy is a veteran. It says up there he's an army veteran. He's a double amputee. So he's an ex-soldier, and he's, you've got perfect, and he's selling underwear, but they're perfect too. And of course you have strength from defeat, whatever. There is so much vocabulary that comes out of this one, okay? Like dignity and courage and so
Pride.
so why the end result is you're going to get a lot of key elements because it produces a lot of it. So how are they selling me the underwear? Who are they selling it to? Who's interested? Well, it comes out that the key concepts of this are ideas that are captivating, that attract men and boys. Courage, okay, strength. So if you take all the words that come out of that, they're all going to, these key concepts are going to point to something like that. Could do it, war stories. We've got many of them in literature. where you're introducing these concepts and this vocabulary, and mostly the fact that they have to go and look for these ideas. You're not just giving them, they have to work for them. So this activity, after you've modeled how to do it, you give it to them and you say in groups, because that's where they're going to learn, okay? It's not individual. In groups because they have to discuss it. Now I have to say in my English class, these discussions amongst themselves are going to be in Italian. There's just no way. Yeah. But I am constantly going to each group and I stop and I say, well, tell me where you're at, what have you got? And at that point, the group is explaining themselves to me in English. That's how it
Even
would work.
in fourth class? Class 4?
Yes, and this year I did it. I went in as a project and I did it in my colleague's Scientifico in this class, which...
So they were interacting in Italian, but then they would speak.
My Linguistico also interacts in Italian, and I can say as you know, I can say
As
it for a
many-
million years.
As many
Speak
times.
in English, but we're working again. Sometimes I'm going to sacrifice
Yeah.
that hour of English, you know, of English communication.
Yeah.
Anyway, 25, 30 students, they're not going to be all have the possibility to speak in that hour, and I'm going to sacrifice it for them to think. Because if you don't have ideas, you have nothing to say. Okay? So
let them.
I let them work until, and then I just go around. Once they're there, I go around and I ask them, and when we talk about it, and they explain these concepts to me in English. I'm giving them the opportunity to explain the abstract in English. Okay? And you know, if I were doing this in your class, if this was one way, I haven't done it this way, but I could actually do it as a test, a preliminary test, in the sense that I could take the group and say, okay, now tell me in English what you came up with, the reasons why, and it would be preliminary testing and allowing them to speak, okay? And mostly I find myself doing this. Because they want to explain it in baby English, I call it baby English, and I say, you're bigger now, you need to explain it in academic English. They will phrase it, and then I will rephrase it and I say, well, why don't we use this in the passive form and say it like this? Because that's what you're going to have to do at school, okay? Or the key idea, and they will say, well, he goes into war, and you know, he's in a situation of danger. I say, okay, so that means, and he lost his legs, so he is the victim of circumstances in a war. So you try to give them another language to move it up a little. It's very, very hard. It's not easy work for them. So that would be the next point that they work with. I've tried, and I have to say I've been doing this for a few years, and again, it's like the PowerPoint. I learned a lot from my mistakes. One of the mistakes was to say, go and get an ad and do it yourself.
It's too
Okay.
bad.
They don't know how to
Confusing,
choose them.
yeah.
That's right. They don't know what they're looking at. It's this stage has to be guided step by step. Okay, to get them to do that, they just say all kinds of things, and this is an activity that requires practice. And I realize it requires practice, and I didn't realize until I started teaching that I am, because I did literature at school and because we did this, we would do this when I was in high school with songs, okay, and with literature. This is kind of work we did. We would read a book, group of people would read the same book, and then we would have a panel discussion. And the panel discussion was the class watching us while we discussed the books, the key ideas of the book amongst ourselves. Now we're doing it in their native language, obviously.
But it's a nice activity.
It is. It requires, yes, and you could do it, I would
It's
do it
very
with
creative.
short stories.
Very creative.
That's right. So maybe with guidelines. And you know, this is something that people do in book clubs.
Yes.
Right?
That's something I would like to do.
Yeah, if you read the same book, and generally book clubs in Canada and in the States are just maybe people in the same neighborhood, a group of teachers that are friends, they decide to read the book, they get together and they discuss the book. And that's where all this brainstorming comes out. And for us, this is
You're
created.
used to it.
You're used to it.
You need there are no book clubs.
No,
You
you do.
can't find them.
No.
I
But
would like
you-
to start one
You
one
see-
day, maybe.
One day,
The
and
reader-
everybody reads
Yeah.
the same book. And generally, they're small and they take place at somebody's house, right? On rotation, my house, your house. You read the same book and you discuss it. And I find that I identify things, I think about things automatically, which means that throughout these years, this was trained
Yes.
without even me
You've
being
been trained.
aware of it.
There's
right?
a nice book called the Jane Austen Book Club,
Yeah.
and it's about a group of
Ladies meet.
Yeah.
no, ladies and a man.
Yes, there's always a man.
Meeting at somebody's house, and it's very nice.
Yes,
It's
and
really
It's quite common approach.
Yeah.
In Italy,
in Italy, you never find that.
Shame.
I don't know if you're going to film this. I hope they cut this part. But they even made book clubs. Women even got book clubs for 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, I mean, let them have them.
Anything.
Anything. And the idea is always, read and discuss. It doesn't matter what, but read and
You
discuss.
can discover something about yourself.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this part here, I would give them to work in groups, and then I would monitor, and I would simply ask them to come up with these key concept words for high
And then
school.
you write them down on the board.
I would write the board, okay? And then they become familiar. And I was saying, this can be done on a regular basis whenever you
Introduce a new
new
subject.
book. Let's do it again to just get those mental juices going and having ideas. That's what you want to do. So getting to the literary part.
And this takes 1 hour usually, right?
No,
One
it takes
lesson.
more. It takes more. Yeah,
More?
because they don't find it that easy. Okay,
Oh.
it's almost. It also depends on the class. This year I have 4 fourth-year linguistica. 2 are mine right from the first. 2 are new from this year. The ones that are mine have changed from second year on. I've seen this progressive closure and fear of being wrong. They have to absolutely be sure, and then because they, give me something I can study, because if it's something that I have to invent myself, that won't happen. And I actually asked them to do written on a short story, and it was a classic of science fiction. I'll give you the title in a moment. It's a very short story. But anyway, and at the end I asked some basic questions like, what is the theme of the story? Okay, why does the character do that? What does that mean? They went on Google, and I had, the usual situation. They memorized. They don't even have the brilliance to say, well, I'm going to change the words. No, it was copy and paste type of thing. So they actually memorized complete passages.
Without even understanding.
No, the effort to memorize something out of context because you don't understand it, and then, regurgitate it there. That's how afraid they are. The other 2 classes responded really, really well. They were really enthusiastic. They wanted to launch these ideas. Am I right? Am I not? Why not? You're right as long as you can support it with the evidence. When you can't support it with the evidence, then you may not be so right. Okay? So this, for us, leads to what we are asked to do at university in the humanities. Okay? Where you're asked to take a position on something and to defend it. Okay? So this is why we do this, basically,
And
to
have papers prepared.
papers to prepare and to
Actually, we have
support
oral exams.
on
We don't
that.
prepare papers.
So, this genre goes under different names, from flash fiction, microfiction, one smoke fiction.
One smoke.
One smoke fiction because it's so fast that you can read it with the smoke. Okay?
Wow.
So if you are going to look for this type of literature, you just have to put down these.
One smoke fiction.
That's right. And I have 2 stories here.
Never heard.
And I asked every colleague I had, and I have 3 schools. I asked the Italians, I asked the English, do you have something similar in Italian? And this is a genre. They publish books of this things. And it goes from a 300-word story. Sometimes they're even very, very short, just a few lines. But they have a criteria where something happens. And everybody's told me no. So apparently nobody is writing, or if they're writing these types of short stories, they're not publishing them. They're not collected under one category. So what I'm going to ask you is to read Vista di Mare, and notice the incorrection because it's an American writer who probably used Google to translate her title. And we're going to do this the same way you would do in a book club, actually.
One of my new students asked me, can we create a program with a hot chocolate book class? And we sat down and drink hot chocolate and we read the book.
Oh, that
He's
would be...
just 9 years old.
Did you do it? Did you correct?
Not yet, but I took in consideration this idea and I'm just thinking of reading things.
Yeah, and it would be interesting, the
Yeah.
questions, okay? The questions that, and letting them know that their interpretation is their own. Again, I'm going to talk briefly of personal experience because I did do, I went to school in Canada, but I don't remember everything I did. But my daughter left Italy when she was 16. She did the biennial. She came home after the first year of Scientifica and she said, I don't want to stay here anymore. Yeah.
Strange.
We said, can you at least finish the second year so we can have at least a semblance of a family? And so she finished it and then she left. And so she finished the last 2 years of high school. And she lived with my brother. And while she was in high school, we would talk about how the approach. What are you doing? How you explain? Because as a teacher, I wanted to know how. What are they doing? Teach me. So she was doing poetry, and they were working on a poet. And I said, well, what do you have to do? Well, she said she's basically given us a poem, and it's a poem that we're not going to find analyzed online. So it was an obscure work by the poet. And she said, and I have to interpret it. I have to tell her what I think about it. And she said, I don't know where to start. And of course you don't, because you don't have the background. Poems refer to a historical period, the poet's personal expression, but it's art. And the first thing it does, it speaks to you without everything else. So go from that. Think about what the words say. Think about the images. Think about what your interpretation is. So the starting point was the personal interpretation to the work. Okay? Afterwards, after you've done it, after the class discusses the why or not, then you can talk about, well, the historical context is this was happening, so this imagery is connected to that. Then you can do the serious analysis after. But the first one is, what's your impression? Did you like it? What did it make you think of? Why? Because whenever you approach art in any of its form, it has to talk to you first. And what does it talk to? Your personal experience. That's the only thing you have to interpret it. Okay?
Yeah.
If you're not an expert in it. What else? And it's not made for experts. It's an expression of someone who probably had some experience, and if it's closer to yours, you're going to interpret it. Okay? When it's good, it talks to all of us in different ways. Then you can put, the evidence. So this was the approach, and I went to school and I asked my colleagues, how do you approach a poem? It was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
There was no person, you're not allowed to have a personal opinion. How can that be in a world where you have art at every corner? How is it possible that you eliminate the personal experience?
And you eliminate the critical thinking.
With that, yes, obviously. Yes. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to...
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's 10 to 1, so
Oh,
we're going to have
okay.
to break in 10 minutes. Do you think we can do it? Or
Yeah, just read the first one. Don't read the second one. Read Vista di Mare. Mhm.
Where did you get this from? From a book or
No,
on the
online.
internet?
On
Online.
the internet,
Mhm.
online.
Are there any specific sites?
I guess there are, actually. Let's see. Connection there.
It's very nice, this kind of activity.
Yeah,
Because it's a short story. Because there are long short stories.
yeah, there are all kinds of. I have to say, I also do an activity where we won't do here, but I'll give you the idea. I will take generally a famous short story, something you want them to be familiar with of the hundreds of short stories that you have. I like Roald Dahl, for example. His horror stories are always good. And what I do with these short stories, I'll give the short story to read at home because they can be between 5 and 10 pages long. Read it at home. And then I will give the theme. You know, you can just go online for any classic short story and say, what are the themes? And they'll indicate all kinds of student sites where students go and find out what the themes are. And they're very well presented, okay? And you can say, well, this is the theme. Recently I did a Roald Dahl Lamb to the Slaughter. I don't know if you're familiar with it, where she kills her husband with a leg of lamb on the head. Okay? Yeah, nice story. A little bit of background was the 1950s short story. So the themes are food and consumption also thought of as obsession, marriage and gender, role of women, okay, the role of men. Betrayal is the main theme of the story because he leaves his wife and she gets angry and so she kills him with a frozen leg of lamb. And I don't remember the fourth theme. So I actually gave them the themes because if you ask them to read and say, what are the themes? They'll go, So I did this in inverted way, and the other one was role reversal, which is really interesting because role reversal, the leg, and you have to actually make them identify this, lamb in Christian culture is sacrifice and innocence. You use it to kill somebody, it's role reversal. So there's a lot of this in the story, right? So I give each group a theme, and I say, now look at this. It's a 5-page story. Go through it and find the evidence to support this theme. So they're going through all the the dialogue, the description, and say, well, why is this theme? What's the purpose? Because the theme is the overall message, right? It's the universal message. There could be different themes in a story, but it generates the message, it's the teaching, it's a criticism that the author might make. So I want you to tell me what the universal message, why is Dahl using food and consumption as a theme? You say it's there because you see it all through the story. So it's like detective work for them. And that they really enjoy because they feel safer. They're looking for elements, okay? Rather than the abstract of ideas. They're working from the concrete to support the abstract.
And they have then to report it to the class?
Absolutely, we use it.
What they find out, they have to report it?
They report it. And again, this I might use it as an evaluation of their speaking, take them out in a group and discuss it. Okay, as a group, we're going to 20 minutes, we're going to talk about it and you're going to tell me why you think that. And it's mostly about drawing out their ideas and working on communicating the abstract. Because if you go back to the Cambridge certification, after PET, the oral, but also the writing, is about communicating the abstract. They don't ask you to describe the picture. They ask you to describe how they're feeling, okay, or what is the relationship they've got the abstract. And if you do advanced, it's even more so, it's even more complex. So this is the work, right? Again, going from
1 hour, 2 hours
4.
for this task. How long would it take you?
I have 50-minute classes. My 4th year read the story. I gave them 2 classes to work together on it.
Okay.
And then the 3rd class, we discussed
discuss
it.
it.
Yeah, because once you have the information, you discuss it. And actually, they found things that I didn't even think about, which is excellent. When they find something I hadn't thought about, I say, that is such a success. I go, wow, what a good idea. And it means they're thinking to me. So, yeah, that's the part. And I will, again, I'll give you these...
Yeah, the site if you find them.
Well, yeah, I have them on my thing, but I will again invite you to a canvas, and I'll put all these
Okay.
links on there for you. Okay, I'll put
Okay,
the literature section for you too, and the tools, because again, there's this beautiful tool where you take a text, you copy and you paste it into this spot, and it simplifies it for you. It takes out all the big words, and it gives you easier synonyms, and you have a choice of the range of difficulty you want to make it.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's good if you think that in 4th year you're preparing them for the reading comprehension of the 5th year, you give them an easier version, right, of news articles. And in the comparison of it.
Any text?
Yeah.
Can you do it with any text?
Mhm.
Wow.
Well, I would love it. I've recently I updated my colleagues with tools to use. There's another one, for example, and again, you should always collect tools, sites that you can give your students. There's this beautiful site that has clips, video clips that go from 1890 to 1990, historical video clips. So you can imagine, yes, if they're putting together a project, and they could actually add the video on, and it goes by countries and things like that.
Can you give us this site too?
I can. I'll put everything on there, and I'll try to give the categories so that you don't have to open everything up. I'll give you for reading and for writing. There are lots of tools. You have to spend a lot of time, but remember, unlike you, I have to create my own material. And while I'm looking for material to work in class, I'm inevitably sent to link here, link there. And as I collect these links, I'm also thinking, well, this would be good for the history teacher. This would be good for my other colleague. And I begin to put them until I have to. And I do this once a year because the internet is so fast that from one year to the next, there are lots of new tools. Okay? So, yeah, I require a lesson, an afternoon just to show you.
Yes.
Are we done at 1?
Yeah.
Okay, then I need to do
We
that.
have 1 hour break.
Okay.